Hey y'all, welcome back. So in my last video, I told y'all about the first day in the Department of Corrections. Very long day, and it was the first of very many long days. And in a previous video, I talked about when I got sentenced to those 10 years. So I want to backtrack and talk about the whole trial process. So when you catch a charge, you get arrested, they book you in, you sit overnight, they give you a bond. If you have the money, you bond out and you get to go home and you can fight your case from the streets, is what we call it. From the streets, well, from home. You're not incarcerated. Or if you don't have the money for a bond or you don't have a bond, then you sit in the county jail and you fight your case from the county. So I bonded out and I fought my case from the streets at first. So the state, that you go to court month after month, they give you a court date each month. So when you go, the first couple court dates, they don't really do too much. Just like basically getting familiar with your information. That gives you time to figure out what you're gonna do, time to get you some representation, get your lawyer, and that gives the state time to get their ducks in a row. Now, you do have the option to go to trial fast, which is the speedy trial. You can go to trial fast. Or if you don't want to go to trial fast, and I think it's like 60 days, you have to waive your right to a speedy trial. So you either go to trial in 60 days or you have to waive your right. You have to physically sign a piece of paper that says, I waive my right to a speedy trial, which means it can take as long as it takes. Sometimes in your favor, you might want a speedy trial, and then most times people waive their right because ain't nobody ready. You don't got all your ducks in a row, so you're like, no, I don't want to go to trial in 60 days. So they give you a court date. Normally it's like a month out, and you go in. It's basically like the first couple months, not really much happens. You go to court. The judge asks your attorney and the state if they have any further information. Where are they at with it? And then somebody's gonna ask for a continuation because they're not ready. They got other cases. You're not the only person, so they're not ready. So at some point in time, the state is going to give you an offer. They don't have to give you an offer. If they just want to take you to trial, they don't have to give you an offer. They can just be like, we'll see you at trial. The state gave me an offer. So my offer was 7 years prison. No probation, no nothing, no community service, no house arrest, no nothing. So I was like, can you ask them if we can get some probation? Like, so I'll go home on house arrest. Because community service, they don't want to do nothing but send me to prison. Like, that's it. The state was like, that's it. And they gave me that offer, and I was like, I'm not signing for 7 years. Like, I'm not signing. So they was like, okay. So we kept going. Most of the time, they leave your offer on the table, and they give you time to either they'll counter it and be like, okay, well, not 7 years in prison. Then what about this? Or what about that? Sometimes they go up. Sometimes that first offer is 7, and then the next time they give you an offer, they saying it's 10 or 15 or whatever it is. Like, you gamble anytime you turn down an offer from the state. So I turned my offer down. I think my offer stood for maybe like a month or two, and then they took my offer off the table. There was no longer me saying that I was gonna sign for anything, even though I told them like I wasn't signing, I was going to trial. They took my offer off the table, like, okay, you think you hard? We're gonna take the offer off the table and we're gonna take you to trial. So you go month after month after month until you're ready and the state is ready. So during this time, while I'm on the streets, I ended up getting into a fight. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. I tried. Y'all, I did try. I tried to be good. I didn't want to get in no trouble. I tried. Things just happened. So I ended up getting in the fight. The girl called the police on me. And when I went to jail, I got Parker versus Stated. Now, Parker versus State means you cannot be out on 2 bonds. So if you bond out on a charge and you go back to jail, they're not going to give you a second bond. You can only be out on 1 bond. So if you catch a second charge, you have to, one of those charges you have to deal with. So I had to either deal with the battery or I had to deal with the trafficking. And a battery is this. They would not deal with my battery because they knew I was fighting that trafficking charge. Even though they could have, they kept pushing my battery off, so I had to sit. So I was out from November of 2010 to December of 2011. That's when I got locked up with that battery. So I'm sitting in the county jail fighting my case now. So it gets to the point, I'm in agreements, the state's in agreement, we going to trial. So then it comes time to pick your jury. Now, I always thought jury selection was like, I want him, I want him, I want her. You can get rid of him. You can tell them to go to hell, and them 2 right there I want. That's what I thought jury selection was. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. You have a sheet The jurors come in, they sit up there, the state have a sheet, and the state and your attorney gets to ask each person different questions. And the state can strike who they want to strike, and you can strike who you want to strike. Now, normally, you want to strike the people who you feel are not in your favor, and the state is going to do the same thing. So most of the times, the people the defense won't get strike by the state, and the people that the state won't, the defense ends up striking them. So they ask them different questions like, how do you feel about law enforcement? You know, do you know the defendant? How do you feel about, it's the randomest things. They just sit there and they talk to the jurors and they ask them questions, trying to like read their body language, see how they feel on certain topics. Of course, if they ask you how you feel about law enforcement and you say, I feel like law enforcement abuses their authority, you're getting striked. You're gone. So if you don't, I'm not even gonna say that. I'm not even gonna say that. But you're gone. And if they ask you, how do you feel about law enforcement? And if you say, I feel like they do a great job. They are the best. They go above and beyond. The defense gonna strike you, because it's like you two back the blue. So you definitely gonna send my client up the road. So you basically, it's like I don't want him, I don't want him. Oh, but I want her, but I want her. So it's like, it's not even, it's not what you think it is. You really just get a mix of who you want and who the state want. And honestly, I feel like if my life is the one that's on the line, I know I pay my light bill. If my life is the one that's on the line, I feel like I should be able to pick my jury wholeheartedly. I don't feel like the state should have any say in who I pick. But the Constitution wasn't worried about how I felt, because that's not the way it is. You strike, I strike, and we just come up with, we just meet somewhere in the middle. So after you pick your jury and the state satisfied, you're satisfied, and you have the people that you have, and I don't know what's going on with this light, but you have the people that you have, and the state has the people they have, and it makes one jury, and that's who determines your life. And I'm looking at these people like, y'all have my life in your hands, literally. And the jury has to be unanimous. Everybody has to say you're guilty, or everybody has to say you're innocent, or it's considered a hung jury. If you have some people saying you're guilty and some people saying you're innocent, it's considered a hung jury. And they're supposed to throw the case out, but sometimes they just make you go back to trial, because that's just how the system does. But it's supposed to get, so it has to be unanimous. Everybody has to feel like you're guilty, or everybody has to feel like you're innocent. And it's beyond a reasonable doubt. So the state has to prove that you did the crime that you're committed for. Now, most people think the defense, you get a lawyer because they have to prove you're innocent. The burden is on the state. It's not on the defense. It's not your job to prove that you're innocent. It's the state's job to prove that you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If there's even a slither that people could be like, well, maybe she didn't do it, that's innocence. That's innocence. But the state can be very leading in the way they word things. So it gets very murky at trial. I picked my trial jurors, and then we were set to go to trial the next day. So after that, I went back to the cell, and I'm like, I prayed. And I've seen a lot of comments like, oh, did you get a relationship with God before you went to prison, or did you just pick it up? Because they like to talk about jailhouse religion. I was raised in the church, so I went to church all the time. Even though I wasn't paying attention most of the time, I was texting, I was falling asleep, I was trying to talk to my friends, I was trying to sneak outside and go play, I was trying to do anything but listen. But the thing about it is, those seeds were dropped, because when I was in the county jail and my spirit was running on E and I ain't have nothing for me, I can do nothing for me. It's like I would just hear scriptures in my head. I wasn't reading the Bible, but I would hear scriptures just being overplayed in my head, like, and that's what made me reach out for my Bible, because my spirit was giving me scriptures. Like, there's a verse that says that even when you don't know what to say, the spirit moans for you. And that's true, because my spirit was giving me scriptures that I didn't even know that I knew, but they were just running over and over in my head. So I did pick up my Bible when I was in prison, and I have not put it down. Thank you. But yeah, that's how jury selection goes. So I just want to tell y'all how that goes. And the trial is a whole nother thing. I'm gonna have to get into that another time, but I'm tired. So good night. I will talk to y'all later.